All right, folks, this is part three of the racism trilogy of the evening. There's just a lot of it. You know, we don't make the news; we just report it. You all know Tommy Robinson, right? The real journalist, as they say, over in the UK. He reports this out: 10 dead as a car is driven into a Christmas market preparation crowds in France's Guadeloupe. It's very interesting how he mentions France's Guadeloupe. Legacy media silence. 10 dead as a car is driven into a Christmas market. Legacy media silent. This has 36.9 million views at the time I screenshotted it. It's far past that now. Here's some video from the scene. So a terrible scene there. This was largely amplified by Elon Musk, big Tommy Robinson fan. That's where it got 33 and a half of those 36.9 million views. He says, again. So 10 dead is the report, with the clear implication that this was a terrorist attack. First of all, let's just be clear. For those who did not know, Guadeloupe is here, not physically in France. But yeah, Tommy, let's mention France because it's cool and furthers your cause. So some French islands in the Caribbean. But of course, the thrust of the messaging out of the Tommy Robinsons and now the Elon Musk, who's on a crusade against the EU, is that there's a Muslim terrorist invasion of Europe. And of course, we knew there was the Germany Christmas market attack years back where terrorists drove through a market and killed people. But it's important to point out here that not only was this not an attack, but there were no dead people. Piers Morgan quotes this and says, update, no dead. Driver was intoxicated with drink and drugs. Police say it was an accident. Guadeloupe is not in France. Legacy media widely reported the truth. Robinson, the self-acclaimed journalist, silent after reporting lies. So yes, this is Le Monde, French newspaper of record, reports Guadeloupe. A car crashes into a food truck, injuring 19 pedestrians, including 7 children. The driver, who tested positive for alcohol and cannabis, escaped a lynching and was taken into custody. So they reported accurately that there were no deaths, not 10 deaths, and they made sure to clarify this was not a terrorist attack, but an accident involving an impaired driver. So into thin air, comments on the Tommy Robinson thing, how is this not community noted? This is 100% false. Now, this screen grab suggests that there were proposed community notes put on this post. Beware of Elon Musk and his Christmas racist disinformation campaign. Not a single person died. The driver was under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And apparently people did try and get community notes published on this post, since they're completely misrepresenting just about everything they possibly could about this event. As of when I prepared this segment this afternoon, no community notes appear on the post. That's either because they were shut down by the man himself, or the people who tend to follow Elon and Tommy Robinson, who absorb this garbage, just don't want the truth to be known. So they'll vote the note unhelpful, even though it is helpful, so that it won't get put through. And there is no such note on this post. Meanwhile, it spreads far and wide by obviously notorious Zionist here, Ayal Yacobi. Breaking, at least 10 people are dead after a car was driven into crowds preparing for a Christmas market in France's Guadeloupe. Gunther Riegelman got on this. The mainstream media will not report this, and we all know why. Again, just nonsense. Planet of memes. The media will blame the people for celebrating Christmas. Look, Alex Jones says, I predicted this would happen yesterday. Oh, you predicted it. You predicted a guy would get drunk and drive through a crowd by accident. Sadly, a lot more to come. Don't say it's a bad thing or the leftist governments will have you arrested. Wow. Paul Zapula says, another deliberate assault on Christians or an accident? Pray for the families of the victims. So there's a real sleazebag. There's a guy who knows that it was an accident, but still decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to milk this for 34,000 views anyway, because why the fuck not? I'll play dumb and act like I'm not sure. Rob TC says, you know the answer. Now, that's an Elon stan who is suggesting that he knows the answer is it's an attack, when of course the truth is the complete opposite. But this is nothing new. Elon has just made his wall basically devoted to, replacement theory and white depopulation paranoia. Constant. Just one after the other after the other. If current trends continue, whites will go from being a small minority of the world population today to virtually extinct. Oh, no. And then he'll go on and he'll say the South African government is super racist against anyone who isn't black. Just the fact it's literally in the news. And this is because Elon wants to get Starlink
literally
into South Africa. Yeah, wants to get Starlink into South Africa. Funny how they wouldn't want just an overtly racist, drug-addicted Afrikaner doing business in their country. I can't imagine why they would. I can't imagine why they would tell you to go fuck yourself. I can't really imagine why the post-apartheid government of South Africa would say thanks, but no thanks. Take your internet somewhere else. It must be because they hate all white people. Must be because they just hate white people.
Clearly.
So, this is a quick story, but whenever I see bullshit spread that fast, I'm just compelled to do a segment like this because you really see what their goal is. Their goal is to bring on social collapse through a strategy of tension, through civil war, right? Through civil wars, not just in America, but throughout Europe. I mean, and now Elon is talking about how he wants to abolish the EU. Well, why do you want to abolish the EU? You want to abolish the EU to restrict free movement between nations, to give rise to these nationalist movements within these nations and create conflict and strife between immigrants and people of color and the native white European populations. That is so obviously their goal. And there are no lies too big for them to tell. They will lie as shamelessly as they just did here, which is you take a tragic accident in a Christmas market and disguise it as a deadly terrorist attack, even though that is not what happened. That is not what happened. Why would you represent it that way unless you were trying to cause civil unrest, unless you were trying to cause tension and trying to sow paranoia? This is why I said, because I used to be of the opinion that unfortunately the society just kind of has to continue on this trend towards collapse, and then we have to build back from the ruins of it. But once the Charlie Kirk shooting happened, and once you start seeing this kind of rhetoric from these people, you realize, okay, who's actually waiting for that collapse to come? Who's actually looking to do it? Who are the real accelerationists? The real accelerationists are the fascists, because they have the capital, they have the power, and they have the technology to rebuild society in their image. And it is very, very clear here that they are just trying to rip not only the country apart, they're trying to rip the world apart. This is the oligarchs' game. This is what Chris Hedges described as the key difference between the corporatists and the oligarchs. The corporatists rely on networks and networking and relationships, whereas the oligarchs seize upon collapse, because that leaves the population so vulnerable that the oligarchs can basically set up what he calls a toll booth capitalist system. Oh, you want to use the phone? Pay me. You want to watch TV? Pay me. You want to fill your gas tank? Pay me. You want to cross the bridge? Pay me. This is what they want. This is what they want. It's so obvious, and stories like this make it so obvious. There's only one reason you would tell a lie so blatant as that and so outrageous as that. It's because you want the people to hate each other. You want the people to eat each other for you so that you can pick the scraps of the civilization once it has destroyed itself.
That was Keaton's long way of saying he opened a numbers to count that the feds are paying him through.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
to try to support the current regime.
Yeah.
No, look, the thing that the entire oligarchy, no matter what the branding, have in common is to keep workers fighting over identitarian issues. So when the liberals were in power and more ascendant, they did shit like this. There was the guy who shot up the Asian massage parlors, and they absolutely insisted that this was white supremacy, even though all the evidence was it had absolutely nothing to do with that. They absolutely insisted on that. Zaid Jilani, I believe it was, wrote a whole article about how, during COVID, they were trying to say there was all this violence against Asians. There was a very uncomfortable reality underlying that, though. It was mostly economic violence being committed by blacks who lived in the same areas, who had the perception that Asians carried a lot of money, and would not fight back. This white boogeyman attacking Asians just didn't exist. So what you could ask the same question. What's the purpose? Why were they so insistent? Why do you have these freaks like Robin DiAngelo and Ibram X. Kendi get elevated into these positions? We just spent hours and hours and hours with Chairman O'Malley interviewing him. Certainly a more reasonable person, sir, not someone without a race critique. Certainly, I'm not saying that. He has a valid critique that has an economic and a class perspective connected to it, and that's why you don't hear from him. That is why most people don't know his name. That's why they'd rather have a frizzy-haired, rich white lady telling you about race than to have Chairman O'Malley, who's been in the trenches since the 60s, speaking about these things. The whole point is to sow division among workers. Two different types of trap, two different kinds of mice. You got the white working class, this kind of Tommy Robinson thing. Oh, the liberal media is suppressing the white genocide or whatever the fuck. That appeals to them. The idea that every incident that involves non-white people must have a white racism component to it. It's the same point. It's the same purpose. It is to keep workers fighting. They just hit it from two different angles, depending on what audience they're addressing.
Well, sure, they both lead to the same place. I mean, Hedges says that too, because what the
Right.
corporatists end up doing is just bleeding the society dry slowly but
Right.
surely. It
Right.
happens more slowly because they rely on a certain stability, right?
Right.
So it's kind of a slow drip, right? It's just this hole at the bottom of the boat that just the water just keeps slowly taking on water. Whereas this is this is really incitement to civil war. I mean, that's what this
Sure.
is. This is really just
Yeah.
like
Oh,
all
yeah.
at once.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas what the liberals
Elon's a
do
criminal.
is
Elon's a criminal. He should be in prison. This guy should not be walking around loose.
Right.
The fact that he has defense contracts that tells you all you need to know.
Right, of course. Well, look, I mean, what the liberal strategy for this is to funnel wealth to the top
That's
at a
it.
slow pace while censoring dissent, while making excuses about misinformation and hate speech, right? And their message is you should all get along well while the rich just bleed you dry. Right? But be nice to each other because we're all equal. We're all in this together. What is this? This is a sinking ship. They don't tell you that part, right? That's their message. And the right wing message is what we're seeing amplified now. It's faster, but as Hedge just said, they both ultimately lead to the same place, which is a completely eviscerated, disempowered. I won't even say working class because at this point, they're the middle class and the working class are vanishing. To the point where you're basically just going to have mass swaths of desperate, impoverished, immiserated people and a ruling class at the top, which is what they say about communism all the time. That's what they say communism leads to. Oh, the people who are connected get rich and everyone stays poor. Well, what do you think's happening right now? It's happening right in front of your eyes. And the only choices the people get to make are how fast do you want to go and how do you want to feel about it as it happens.
Right.
It's how are you going to emotionally process it, right?
They're training people to settle for less, to expect less, and to assume that less is what you should be satisfied with. Maybe I'll do this during the week. There's a company in San Francisco. They already set up one of these. They're expanding. The kind of pod hotels they have in Japan?
Mm-hmm.
As fucking apartments.
No,
$750 a month.
Wow.
They're setting these up. They're like
That's
pot.
amazing.
They already have one that was successful enough that they're opening another one now.
Wow.
As soon as I saw that, I said, That's the future.
Yeah.
That's what they want for you. They
Yeah.
want people, they want to normalize that.
That's
They
the
want
Matrix,
you to
essentially.
think like oh, I've got a double wide pod.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean that's the Matrix basically. That's what people were in the Matrix. They were hooked up to this machine that gave them this, fake life. Meanwhile, they were just lying in a little pod their whole life. Yeah, that's what that is. I mean, that's a tent city with air conditioning.
Please clap.